take a thumb into the hand and inhale as you raise your arms up now. And let those shoulders loosen down as you breathe out through the mouth. Breathing in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Hands together. 2 breaths. What do you notice as we shift arm position? Pardon me, this time, hands up and either behind or in front of your neck. Full extension, breathing in. And slow, mindful hands to your heart, breathing out. An opportunity to check in with the heart. What are you feeling for this breath here? Lovely. You can stand at any point if that feels better, or change your seated position. Option to have the back of the wrists around the knee area, or to have the hands or fingertips touching the floor on either side of you. Both of those are good. And lengthening the spine again, loosening the shoulders. Let's get into an ear lift. How is your neck today? For 2 big breaths. And when it feels time, take your head over to the other side. Other ear lifts. Just letting go here. We're not forcing anything. We are staying mindful to see how this side feels, especially in comparison to your first side. We'll be doing both sides twice. Find your way back to the initial side and notice how it is now that you've done it once and we're approaching the pose again. And over to the second side. 2 big breaths. And I'm back to center. So the other thing that happens for me when I've taken a break from yoga is I realize that I may have gone for many days without being aware of breathing. So of course, we're always breathing, but you know from your yoga practice that sometimes we can put a lot more awareness on breath and it changes the experience of breathing. And so let's really focus on the breath as we take our heads to look towards the side wall. Shoulders are still low, back of the neck nice and long. And as you take your breath in through the nose, notice the filling up of the lungs downward, maybe a little rise of the belly. And then notice the opposite, all of what happens then as you breathe out slowly and fully through your mouth. Let's do a second breath. And be mindful even as you change sides. Noticing as your head moves the other way, looking at the other side wall, keeping the back of the neck long, and mindful 2 breaths. And bring the head back to center. Keep the shoulders at full height. Everything the same through your torso, upper body. And just the neck is moving to tip so that the chin ends up close to the chest. And again, I invite you to be mindful of 3 big breaths. You might even see a little movement in your belly as you engage in the breathing with the diaphragm. I invite you to walk your eyes across the floor, up the opposite wall, and guided by your neck, across the ceiling as far as your neck wants to take you. We're going to open the mouth for big open mouth breaths. Going, I'm just making one adjustment on my computer. We'll gently walk those eyes back, down the wall and across the floor until again the chin is on or close to the chest for another fully aware 2 breaths. And let your head float forward. Good. Okay, we're going to hang out in this seated position as we do a few arm and shoulder stretches here. So if you're feeling a little discomfort and you want to shift the way that you're sitting, now's a good opportunity. Let's also grab a sip of water, especially for those of us that are in warmer places today. Not rubbing it in to any of you who are not. And we'll start with the one we've done lots. We're going to rest one arm across the lap. Bring the other arm gently up to your ear. Again, because we're being more aware today, right away you might notice a sensation in your shoulder, maybe one you're familiar with, maybe something new. If this is too much for you, causing pain or causing clicking, we can always change the range of motion by, instead of bringing the arm all the way up, just bringing the hand to the shoulder. And then seeing if we're able to engage in a smaller way. So maybe you lift the elbow part of the way, but it's not the full extension. Okay, so always full shoulder if it's giving you trouble. Then let's take ourselves to lengthen this full side of the body, all of the ribs. We're breathing in as we're reaching for the sky. Imagining expanding the side body. Sometimes we picture opening up a balloon in the armpit. And again, we're being extra aware today. What do you feel? What sensations are making themselves known to you as you breathe? And then see if it feels good to take a little more over stretch. So we've gone up with the hand, and now we're taking ourselves over towards the side and noticing if that changes what we feel. Being aware that the top shoulder tends to drop forward. And so let's see if we can very purposely open that shoulder towards the back. Keeping lots of openness across your chest. One more big breath here. Good. And then back to center. Lower the arm. Notice how that was on that side. And then let's go the other way. Other arm on the lap. Other hand. Does this one want to come all the way up? Or is this one better to just hold at the shoulder and then see how much the elbow is able to rise? Let's breathe in and reach for the sky. Breathing out fully each time. And see how it is to go more over. As you breathe, imagine expanding, making more space between the ribs, big expansion in the armpit. What do you feel on this side compared to the first side? And back to center. Good, and bring it down. Excellent. So we're going to do the same thing again with a little variation. So back to the first side. One hand on the left, other hand comes to sky. Maybe the ear and the arm come close together, or maybe you're being more protective, hand on shoulder. So we're going to do that side reach, but now we're very purposely going to do what we said don't do last time, which is to reach the shoulder and arm forward a little bit. And if it feels better, you might take the hand that was on the lap and place it on the ground, just to give you a little support as you lean forward, bringing that top shoulder a little bit forward and exploring. What do you feel as you reach in this position? Breathe, of course. You're being your own yoga explorer. Where does your body feel like it finds sensation? Try a few different spots and then land on one where you're going to hold for a full breath. Then open that chest by bringing that top shoulder back. Come back to full height and bring the arm down. Good. Let's try the other side. Arm up. Your choice of the down hand and arm can be across the lap or on the floor to provide extra support. Reach up, reach over, and then we're going to allow that top shoulder to drop forward. And as we explore on this side, feel as you reach or gently adjust this position. Notice what sensations are coming up for you. And then choose a place to be still for one more breath. And return that top shoulder, bringing it back. Come to full height. And arms down. Excellent. Good. Let's just do a couple of shoulder rolls here. Roll them back. Change directions. Shoulder rolls forward. Good. I'm going to take one arm across the body. We've done this lots. We're holding up the elbow, using the bottom hand, and giving it a gentle tug. Naturally, all of our shoulders tend to rise toward our ears when we do this, and we're bringing them down. Shoulders both down and low. And a couple of breaths here. And again, your job is to notice what sensations, if any, show up for you here. And if you do a big, big breath, you feel sensation differently. Let that one go and take the other arm up. Holding top elbow with the bottom hand, give a pull, and drop those shoulders down away from the ears. And 2 big breaths. What are you noticing? Let that go. And we're now going to take our hands onto our shoulders. So each hand is holding each shoulder. And just make some, it's like shoulder rotations here. So we're sending our elbows up towards the sky and then rolling those elbows behind. Shoulder circles or shoulder rotations, but done by holding hands on shoulders. If this is too much for you, you can do small circles. It's totally fine to just do a baby circle. Start with the elbows out and do a tiny circle. And then just see, can you make it a little bit bigger? Can you make it a little bit bigger? And as soon as it gets like it's making a lot of clicking noises or is painful, then you want to take it back. Do less. So find what's the amount of rotation that your shoulders allow for today. Breathe as you go. You notice. Let's do one more. Good. And let that go. Shake out your arms. Excellent. We're going to do a forward release in a seated position. So perhaps some of you are on a chair. This works great there. Or maybe you're on the floor. You turn your body to face one leg. And place your hands on either side of that leg or either side of that knee. And start with a nice tall spine as we take a breath in. Nod your chin towards your chest as you breathe out. And we're slowly engaging in a forward release this way. So one vertebra at a time rounds down. And you might start to feel more sensation. So wherever the sensation is, breathe into it. And then you decide if you want to roll down more. Or you might come to a place where your body's happy to stay there. You rolled down enough. Notice how the sensations change as you enter a little more deeply into the pose, if you've chosen to do that. And find a place where you can be still. And let's hold there for 2 more breaths. Keep the head in line with the spine and push yourself back to sitting using the arms. Good. A little adjustment, a little shake. And let's go towards the other leg. So you're turning your body facing the other outstretched leg or knee. Hands on either side of that leg. Sit really tall as you take a breath in. Nod your chin towards your chest as you breathe out. And same thing as before. It's a very slow forward release. Lots of noticing sensations. You're attempting to roll down 1 vertebra at a time. Find a place where you can be still and hold for 2 big breaths. Then bring your head in line with your spine and use your hands to push yourself up to full height. Good. Wiggle it out, shake it out a little. Excellent. We're going to take our hands and interlace the fingers behind. Pull the wrists apart, straighten the elbows. Feel wide across your chest and lift your hands a little bit away from the body, so up and away from the back. And 3 big breaths here. Good. Let that go. Give yourself a hug and a little bit of breathing into the low back now. Mobility there. Got one arm on top. We're going to switch. Other elbow on top. Gentle back and forth at the waist. Breathing into the low back. And grab another sip of water, and then we'll transition to standing. Shake out those legs if you were sitting all that time. Maybe it's been a while since you sat that long. So we'll love to the legs. Be a little ankle circle. Good. And let's remind our grounded feet where the ground is. Lift the 5 toes and lay them down one toe at a time. Feeling that connection. Toes and all 4 corners of your foot connected to the earth. Same thing other side. Lift the 5 toes, lay them down one at a time. Feel your feet on the floor. And the floor connected to the earth. Keep your knees gently bent, but stand as tall as you can stand. Crown is the highest point, the tallest version of yourself here. And again, let's roll the shoulders. Let's check in with them. How are they feeling now that we did all those shoulder stretches? Both directions, moving forward. Good. So we're going to launch into an eagle pose, which, as you know, gets into the shoulders, but also adds a bit of balance. So depending on how you're feeling about balance these days, maybe you want to turn so that you've got a wall close by to hang on to or a piece of furniture. Go where you need to go. First step, take one arm all the way across your body. Take the other arm to wrap underneath the tricep as far as it can go. And the fingers of that hand, the hand that wrapped underneath, are coming to touch the inside of the palm of the other hand. And if you've achieved that, that will mean that both your thumbs are pointed towards your nose. Now, not all of us every day have the ability to make that shape. And so alternately, you might just take your hands down and hold hands on shoulders. You'll still get that beautiful, delicious stretch across the back of the shoulder blades. So both of these are great options. Pull the elbows gently away from the chest and take a big breath here. And we're going to add balance by crossing one leg over the other, bending both knees, and seeing if we can lift the toes off the floor just for a second or longer if you feel balanced. Let's hold 3 breaths. Stand back up. Let go of that side and give a good shake out. Now let's go the other way. So the other arm goes across. Arm still remaining. Wraps underneath the tricep and brings fingers to touch the palm of the other hand. Both thumbs pointed at your nose. Noticing how this side feels compared to the initial side. And let's see if we can pull the elbows gently away from the chest, just a little bit, and take a big breath. And then whatever leg didn't cross last time, that's the leg we're crossing. Bending both knees as we sit low, tucking the chin. And see about testing the balance. We hold 3 breaths. Come on, back up. Good. So as we explore sensations in our body, especially if we've taken a little bit of a break from yoga, for me, I can feel my hips. So let's now get into some more of our leg and hip openers as we open up all the parts that maybe got a little stiff in the last few weeks. Take a foot and turn the toes toward the short end of the mat. So we're in a warrior position with our legs. You're imagining the heel of that foot aligned with the instep of the other foot, and the other foot's at 45 degrees. And let's begin just by bending and straightening. How are the legs and hips feeling today? Good. Now we do want to end up with a bent knee. And if possible, we want the outside of the knee in line with the pinky toe. And we're always trying to have good alignment. So preferably, we want the knee and the ankle pretty close to lined up with each other. What we wouldn't want is the knee way over the toes. So if your knee is way past your toes, then you need to change the position, maybe get a little wider so that the knee is a little more over the ankle. Let's open up the arms. Reaching from shoulders on out, dropping those shoulders down, bending the knee a little more, looking past the side fingers, and 3 expansive breaths. Keeping openness by imagining that you're attaching yourself to a wall behind you and keeping points of contact there as you tip your body, resting your forearm onto the thigh attached to the bent knee. The other arm reaches way overhead if possible, or you could do that version where the hand holds the shoulder. We're opening up that top shoulder, bringing it back instead of letting it drop forward, and taking 3 more breaths here. Noticing any sensation in the hips as well as we hold and open them. Sending that top hand skyward. If you know your back is strong today, you could open your bottom arm towards the floor as well. And breathe. Again, notice your top shoulder. Ensure that you hold it gently back. And we're going to do a little bit more. We're going to take that top hand and swish it past face so that both hands land beside your foot. You'll turn all the toes now, face forward. Just there. And let's hold here for 3 big breaths. Notice the sensations that you're feeling. Stay mindful. Bring your back knee gently down. If you know you need to protect your knees, then you might fold your mat to give a little extra cushioning in there. And we're going to hang out here for some time. So your first job is to get as comfortable as you can in this position. So maybe that means you need to adjust the distance between your front heel and your back knee. Maybe there's a sensation that you're experiencing that if you adjust some other way in your body, you can change it to be more comfortable. And again, we don't want to have the knee creeping over the toes. So scoot your front toes forward if you need to. And then see if you can settle right in and focus on your breath. Two more breaths here. And then walk your fingers back as you straighten out your front leg. And trying to get the hips to be equally forward. And once that feels mostly true, then we're focusing on the long front leg and seeing if there's any amount of stretch that feels good there. And breathing. We can add to it by pointing the toes towards the earth for our breath. And then flexing that foot for a breath. Let's do each of those again. Notice any sensations that are coming up for you. If your knees allow for it, I invite you to come into a kneeling position, but remember which leg you had forward. So for me, it was my left. Remember which was the forward leg. Then come to kneeling. And let's enjoy a couple of breaths here, stretching our quadriceps. If this position doesn't work for your body, then you might prefer to be kneeling in the upright position. And if it's still too much for your knees, in a moment, we're going to transition to standing to do the other side. So you're welcome to just go ahead and get a jump on that. If this is an okay pose for you, just notice if there's anything else the body wants to do while you're here. Sometimes I like a little rounding and arching. Maybe breath to that, or maybe there's a little bit of wiggling or twisting, anything that your body guides you to do that feels good, go ahead and do. And then I invite you to curl your toes so that you come into a squatting pose. And if you feel balanced with it, you might hold your hands at the heart. And then give your core a good squeeze, knowing that you've got lots of inner core strength and leg strength helping you to stand from there. Beautiful. And let's do the other side. So you had to remember which leg you had forward so that you can remember which leg is going forward this time. So it's the other leg that's got the toes pointed towards the short end of the mat and the knee bent. Warrior feet, so heel aligned with the instep of the other foot that's 45 degrees. And let's bend and straighten. And if you grab a little sip of water here, you're bending right toward it. Then find that position for warrior. Bent one knee. Outside of the knee, aligned with the pinky toe. Knee more over ankle, not so much over toes. And arms open. with fingers reaching out to each side actively for 3 big breaths. Noticing how this side feels. And then tipping and resting forearm onto the thigh. If your free arm allows for it, reaching overhead past your ear. And 3 big breaths. And top shoulder a little bit open. Noticing which parts of the body are getting this a little more blood flow, a little more extension as we stretch out all those nooks and crannies. Top arm towards the sky for triangle. Optional to keep the bottom arm as it is, or if the back is well, to extend that bottom forward. And 3 open-hearted breaths. Take that top hand and swish it past your face. Bring both hands down beside the foot. Turn all your toes to face forward and find the right positioning here for lizard pose with 3 big breaths. Bring the back knee gently down, maybe onto a cushion. Point the back toes. Readjust the distance between your front heel and your back knee. And make any adjustments to this pose in general so it can be comfortable enough to hang out here. And then let the breath be your focus. Let the breath help you stay mindful. For what sensation are you feeling each and every breath? Two more breaths here. Let's walk the fingers back. Straightening out to that front leg. Finding hip equality so that both hip bones are equally forward, equally back. And noticing, how does this leg feel? Straighten it out here, into the hamstring. Let's try pointing the toes toward the mat. Take a breath. Flex the foot. I can feel that one today. Point the toes again. Flex again. Good. Come to hands and knees. Hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. And let's do a little rounding and arching if your back allows for that. Not all backs are meant to round and arch, so only if you know you're good for it. Find your way into a little back mobility and synchronize your breath to the movement. Then come back to center and pull your hips halfway back to heels and off to one side. This is one of my favorites. I love finding that little sweet spot in the low back, upper hip area. Just feels good for my particular back. Explore what feels good for you. And then try the same on the other side. And then take it all the way back into pose of child. Any arm versions, you have hands above your head, or you could rest your head on your hands or your hands by your feet. And let's settle right in for 5 breaths. Round yourself gently back up. Excellent. And just take a moment to pause. How are you feeling just now? And if you like, I'll invite you back to hands and knees to thread the needle so that we get a little bit of extension through the middle back. So taking one hand and threading it between your other wrist and knee. It's going to reach, 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 reach until you're lying on that shoulder and on the side of the head. And then we're using the breath to open up from the middle back all the way up to the neck. So let's start with a breath into your middle back. Make sure your arms are comfortable. If you ended up with one elbow in the air, just bring it gently down. And now breathe into your shoulders. Breathe into your upper back. And breathe into your neck. Contract your core. Support. Come on back to hands and knees. Excellent. And to the other side. From the hands and knees position, it's the other hand now that threads between your wrist and knee, reaches, reaches, reaches until you're lying on that shoulder and the side of the head. And you've taken any elbows that are up in the air, down. And take your 4 breaths now from middle back all the way to neck. And after 4 breaths, come back to hands and knees. And let's open up our wrists. We were talking about wrists a little bit before the class started. So you've got 2 options. You can, if you're being a little more cautious with your forearms and wrists, you'll have more control if you find any seated position and take one hand and press on the fingers and the thumb of the other hand to get that lengthening. Or if you feel like you want a little more intensity, you sit back with your toes curled, put your hands in front of you with fingers pointed towards your knees on the mat. And you decide how much to sit back, bum toward heels, and that'll adjust the intensity for you. Let's hold 3 breaths. For those of you who are not doing the mat version, but are doing the one hand on the other version, you can change side. And then we're stretching the back of the forearms. If you're using the mat, you're flipping your hands over so that you're resting the back of the hands on the mat, fingers still pointed towards your knees, and hips sitting towards heels. If you're doing a little more controlled version, you're using the hand onto the back of the hand, straightening it out, and getting the stretch that way. Both are good. And both require breathing. And those of you doing this one, you can change sides. And shake that out. Woo. Excellent work. Come to lying on your back. We're going to do a couple of core back openers and core strengtheners, and then we'll get ready for Shavasana. So lying on the back, moving a few things out of the way. Taking that moment. The one I enjoy so much is just when you have the support of the earth underneath your spine. It feels to me like I'm being held. Love the feeling, that moment where you first lay down and you just feel like, ah. Savor any sensation here, or notice maybe there's sensations that you're aware of today that are new or different or the same. So just take stock. And we love stretching a few parts of backs and hips by crossing the ankle of one leg onto the thigh of the other. Today, I'll invite you, if possible, to use your fingers to reach around the hamstring, the one with the foot on the floor. That's the hamstring we're reaching around, so you'll have to lift it up. Interlace the fingers around that hamstring and pull the hips and legs towards you. And let's hold and breathe. 2 more breaths here today. Let that foot back down and change sides. Other ankle onto other leg. Reaching fingers around the hamstring. The one with the foot on the floor. Lifting that foot up so that your fingers can interlace. Pulling it all toward you. And breathe. What sensations are you aware of? One more breath. And place those feet back down, hip width apart. So feet are hip width, knees are hip width. And now take a moment to notice what have you found in your back today. And if you're noticing that the back is a bit struggling and you need to be more gentle, then the knee drop that I'll offer up is to open the arms up long from shoulders on out along the floor and just gently drop the knees over to one side. And you might even want to put a bolster or a pillow underneath your thigh, bringing the floor closer to you. So that's a gentler version of a knee drop. Or, and actually you can get into the hip in a slightly different way than the other version of the knee drop. So for those of you that know that you really like the variation with knees into the chest, it's very similar, but it gets in a slightly different way if you pull the knees into your chest with the feet off the floor, and then just send them over to one side with a thud. So both of those are options. You choose what's going to work for you today, and breathe. Notice the positioning of your shoulders. Notice if your shoulder blades are able to be on the floor today. It's about 3 breaths. And then a squeeze of your core to bring those knees back to center and over to the other side, where you can then let go of the core, go of the hips, the knees. Take 3 releasing breaths. Contract your core and come back. We've still got the feet hip width apart, the knees hip width, and we're bringing the arms beside the body again. Getting into our bridge pose, which is such an excellent core strengthener and offers so many variations to us. Squeeze your pelvic floor. So a little awareness of your Kegel, of your low abdominals. Maybe the anal sphincter muscles are also squeezing. The pelvic floor is sensitive to all of those parts working together. So pelvic floor engaged. Lift your tailbone. And then the next vertebra, and the next, and the next, all the way until your hips are up and the back of the neck is long. Chin tucked close to your chest. Your core is working to hold your hips where they are. And we're breathing. And you're noticing how much effort is this today. Sometimes when it's a lot of effort, it means that there's some part of the body that's a little not right, a little misaligned, or maybe compromised in some way. So you don't have to do anything about that other than notice. Does this feel like, yeah, pretty typical bridge for you? Or is it creating more effort than usual? And let's bring it down one vertebra at a time, slowly with control. Well done. And then you want to bring ease to the body any way you like. Maybe stretch your legs out and stretch your arms above. Or bring your knees towards your chest, rock side to side. You do anything that feels good here. And let's do a second bridge. So knees hip width again, pelvic floor engaged. Lift your tailbone. One vertebra at a time. Brings you up. So today, for our variation, we're to imagine that we've put a block in between your two knees and that our job is to pulse the knees gently towards each other as though you were squeezing the block. So it's 20 little pulses. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And because you're squeezing the knees with your hips in this high position, the glutes are usually engaged as well. We're getting good strengthening through the glutes, through the thighs, through the core. Still breathing, even as we do these little pulses. And gently, one vertebra at a time, brings you down. And again, do anything you need to do to restore yourself. Good. One more core strengthener and then Shavasana, I promise. So again, knees hip width, feet hip width, pelvic floor engaged. With the pelvic floor engaged, lift one foot off the ground. Keep the pelvic floor squeezed as you lift the other off the ground. So your knees are up, your calves are parallel to the floor. And keeping the pelvic floor squeezed, we're going to do a little toe tap. So the right toe aims towards the floor. It doesn't matter if you actually tap. The idea is that you're able to move your leg, you're able to move your hip of the hip socket, and that the core is working to bring that leg back up. The toe goes towards the floor, the core works to bring the leg back up. So that's all it is. It's a simple move, but it is doing some very subtle core strengthening work as you make this movement with your body. Let's do one more on this side. Keep pelvic floor contracted and to the other side. Left leg does a little dip, and it's the core working to bring you up. Core more than the leg, and I know that's a subtle distinction. The leg is also moving. Of course, those muscles have to be involved a little bit. We're really trying to get a little more awareness of the core activated to make this motion. And zip those knees together, zip your feet, legs, ankles, and do a double toe tap. So again, it doesn't matter if the toes actually reach the floor. What's important is that we're causing that little dip, and then pelvic floor and core are squeezing and bringing you back up. Keep that awareness of those low abdominals really squeezed and pulled in towards the spine. Let's do 3 more of these. Make sure you're breathing through it. And hug those knees into your chest. Rock side to side. And get ready for Shavasana. Feel free to lay fully outstretched, really comfortably. Or alternately, find a comfortable sitting position. I'll be sitting, so it's easier for you to hear my voice. Again, allow the ground to hold you. Feel your spine long. Back of the neck long. Chin tucked in. Take some intentional breaths. Release your jaw. Soften your eyes and your forehead. Release your cheeks. Bring your shoulders low down your body. And take a moment to notice, are there any sensations that you are aware of just now? Are there any emotions that you're aware of? What are you feeling just now? And how is your mind just at this moment? Feel quiet, noisy, busy, spacious, or anything else? Notice that you have your eyes closed. Or maybe you have your eyes half closed if that's preferable. And then we've created a little movie screen behind our closed eyes. Put attention there. And take a moment to notice, is it a dark movie screen? Or is there any awareness of color? Perhaps gradation, maybe a dappling. Or maybe there's even movement or shadows or shapes behind your closed eyes on your imaginary movie screen. I invite you to hold your attention there for a couple of minutes and see if you can do two things at once. Hold your attention at that movie screen, behind your eyelids, and breathe. And if you're someone who has worked with counting the breath, then you might add counting the breath here. Or you might just simply breathe. We'll do 2 minutes silently. And now finish up the breaths that you are breathing. And take 3 deeper breaths, maybe sighing breaths. Start to move a little. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Lying down, turn onto your side for a moment. And when you're ready, slowly push yourself up to sitting. And find your seat, supported by the ground. Lengthen your spine tall. Bring ease to your neck. Feel this sense of openness that we've created across the chest and into the shoulders. And take thumb into hand. Inhale and raise. Low shoulders, breathe out. Another breath. Hands together. 2 breaths. Breathing out fully each time. Full extension and either bringing the hands behind the neck or in front of it. One more, full extension, breathing in. And slowly, hands towards heart, breathing out. And a breath at your big, beautiful heart. Namaste.